Okay, great. So today we are looking at how to get your brand heard, the art of social amplification. No, sorry. There we go. All right. So my name is Crystal Wilshire. I'm the influencer and social media manager here at gShift. I have nearly 10 years experience in digital marketing. On top of that, for anybody who has attended one of my webinars before, you've heard me crack this very true joke. But in my spare time, I'm also a blogger and social media addict, as I'm affectionately called here at the office. So when I leave the office after doing blogging and social media and influencer engagement and general marketing all day long, I go home and do it more in the evening as well. Specific to this webinar, I wanted to also note that I am also a social influencer for major brands. So I do run a mommy blog, for lack of a better term for it. And I've worked with brands such as Disney, Fisher-Price, Sears, and many, many more as an actual paid influencer within their digital marketing campaigns. So it's kind of has me uniquely positioned for this webinar because I have put together influencer campaigns from an agency perspective here at gShift for our own brand clients, as well as been actually on the paid influencer side, on the receiving end of those campaigns. So it's interesting that I've seen it from both sides there. So I'll use as much of that insight today for you as I can. So today we are going to look at kind of four sections of social amplification. First off, what is social amplification? It's a term that not everybody is as familiar with in terms of what it actually means and why it's important to your brand strategy. We're going to look at how to identify and engage influencers, and we're going to break that into paid and organic. There are very big differences between the two. How to use digital events to build your brand authority and drive user engagement, and how to manage promotions properly for social marketing. So that section basically looks at everything else and pulls it all together. So what is social amplification? Social amplification is basically using social marketing channels to increase your word of mouth exposure. It's a matter of getting your brand's message, your content strategy, campaigns that you're working on amplified through various sources such as your own employees, your customers, any industry partners or industry thought leaders, your fans, and your influencers. Each individual share, so each one of your employees or customers, someone that you're working with directly to get those promotions, to get that amplification, every time that they do a share through their network, they're then sharing your content obviously with their personal network, who can then promote it to their own personal network, and so on and so forth. So this is how the amplification portion of this works and continues to build on. It builds your authority on the topic that you're discussing or on the industry that you're in. It increases your social signals, obviously, quite drastically, because if you're having, if it's around a blog post or a digital event or something that links back to your site, then it can be quite lucrative in terms of the social signals. It can really range for you, especially if something goes viral or even mildly viral. And it improves your brand awareness. So this is a graphic that we've used for a number of different presentations. It's kind of a very easy go-to one for me that I think really explains what social amplification is. So first off, we have, your digital aligned content strategy. So what you're doing in terms of your digital marketing efforts. That's all content that you own. You've optimized it. You're getting it ranked. You're doing all that great stuff. From there, you've got your earned content. So you're engaging directly with these people, and you've earned their respect and their their influence for you. From there, they share that out to their network, which is then amplified and then amplified further, and you can see kind of how this grows from there. So how to promote social amplification? There's a few different things that you can do to really start to grow social amplification, and I want to be very clear, social amplification is different than your general social media marketing. Social media marketing is obviously what you're doing to put out as a brand. So social amplification is what you do to take that one step further and try to leverage social media in a much more mass media sort of way. So encourage your brand partners, your employees, again, industry peers, partners, to share content and messaging socially. I've seen quite a few articles actually recently on major industry leaders within SEO that have talked about going so far as to creating employee sharing programs and incentivizing them. So you're actually giving out a list of, here's the content that we've created for our brand this week. You send that out to everybody within your own team, within your own company that is engaged on social, who feels comfortable sharing content. It's not something that you can necessarily write into their employee agreement by any means. And obviously you want it to be a good fit. It may not be a good fit for, just because everybody at your office has Facebook account doesn't mean that your content's going to fit well with them. But in all likelihood, there probably is at least a few key employees who do have the right demographic within their Facebook audience or their Twitter following for your content messaging. So that's one way. You can also identify industry-related conversations and peers to engage with through social channels. This is actually something we talked about in our blog series back in December, which was how to create smarter content. And one of the things that we touched on was how to identify industry and competitor conversations and customer conversations that are going on. So that's another great way to amplify your messaging, is to find conversations that are already existing on the internet and try to engage with those conversations for yourself. Next is identifying paid and organic influencers and launching a full influencer marketing campaign. So we'll get into a little bit more of that in a moment. And then paid content amplification. So this is doing things like doing boosted or sponsored posts on social media. Obviously, this is a big trend for a lot of brands. And if it's done right, it can be very, very well received, and you can get quite a bit of traction on it. It's a matter of being very targeted and very smart with how you set up the ads and how you do your sponsored posts or your boosted posts. And pretty much every social network at this point has some way to do this, or at least all of the major ones do. And again, if you're smart about it, it can be very, very lucrative for you. So looking a little deeper at influencer marketing, influencers are individuals who have a persuasive impact on purchasing and engagement decisions of others within their own audience. This might be due to their perceived authority on a particular topic or the results that they've had in their own life on this particular topic. Either way, they've earned the respect of their peers and their audience on this specific niche that they are blogging or socializing about. Brand influencers are individuals who have an audience that aligns with your target market. So there are millions of influencers on the internet. It's a matter of identifying which ones actually align with your content and your target market and your brand's strategies. Influencer marketing is developing a strategy. So looking at the actual marketing of influencers, developing a strategy to engage and build relationships with influencers and create campaigns that they may choose to participate in. And when I say may, that's because, again, we're going to look at the breakdown of paid and organic. So paid versus organic influencers. Our organic influencers are individuals who have built authority within your industry or with your target audience, and they have a genuine interest in your brand, or they may have a genuine interest in your brand. This could be things like trade publications, journalists, industry thought leaders. So for instance, for us, there's a few SEO professionals and various sites such as Search Engine Watch that we align ourselves with. We share their content, they share our content. I would definitely consider us to be influencers for them and them to be influencers for us. So it kind of works both ways, and we'll get into kind of a little bit more of how to engage those organic influencers. Then there are also paid influencers. Paid influencers are similar to organic influencers in the respect that they've built the authority within your industry and audience, and they will review and or promote your brand, product, services to their network for set compensation. So these are more professional bloggers or social-only influencers. So again, they fall under the same sort of umbrella as the organic influencers in terms of the authority that they've built. On one hand, organic influencers are people who don't expect compensation. They do this for a living. They want to be engaging with you back. Paid influencers may fall into that category as well, but they expect compensation. That's really the only big difference. There are a few things that we want to note on organic and paid. It's very similar to organic and paid in terms of search engine optimization. The organic ultimately is going to last you longer. So although you might want to do paid influencers around certain campaigns and events, which again is what this whole webinar is about and what we'll get into in the further sections, organic influencers and working on building your organic influencer strategy as a long-term and an ongoing strategy, not just as a one-off around a certain event, but an ongoing regular plan, is going to be what will work out for you best in the long term. So working with influencers. So paid influencers, you want to build a relationship with each influencer to ensure that they are the right fit for your brand. There's nothing worse than having somebody, and trust me, though, those bloggers, those influencers exist where they will take anything from anybody and put it on their blog. It doesn't mean it's going to get any traction for you. They have to be the right audience. Give your influencers as much detail as possible. Consider creating an influencer toolkit. So this could include campaign, brand, product details. We offer here at gShift, when I'm working on an influencer campaign for one of our clients, I actually help them build the toolkit. It is literally a 3 to 4 page PDF document that then gets emailed out to each influencer, so they're very clear about what the expectations are, especially with paid, because they expect that there are expectations. They're being paid. There will be obviously some limitations and some boundaries that you set around that, and some guidelines. You want to give them as much as you can in terms of logos, images, anything you can to make sure that the content that they're putting out on your brand's behalf is as high quality as possible. Consider creating an ambassador badge. So I've got my little one here, my bragging rights here, that I'm a Disney baby mom ambassador. So that is something that lives permanently on the sidebar of my blog, so that anybody that comes to my website knows that I work with Disney and that I'm a mom ambassador for Disney. So it just tells people right there. And it's usually, in the case of this one and pretty much any, I think, that I've ever had on my blog, it links back to the Disney Baby program that I'm a part of and back to their website. So it is a backlink for your brand as well. And again, it just shows that you have ambassadors, you have people that are working with your brand. Most influencers live by a rule to give honest opinions. So I want to make this very clear as well. Paying an influencer does not guarantee a positive review. As long as you're being honest with your influencers, if there's limitations to your products or services, or what kind of reviews you've had in the past, just making sure you're working with them to make sure that they're happy. You would be surprised how many times I've heard negative feedback from fellow bloggers. They'll go into a Facebook group and they will rant about your brand if you're not working with them correctly. And I've seen it happen with major brands where they just completely drop the ball in terms of working with an influencer, didn't respond when there was maybe a frustration with the product or service that could have been rectified, and instead that ended up coming out in the content. So you want to make sure that you're helping. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're really working with them. And lastly, make sure you're tracking the results. Create unique URLs for each influencer. Track their content as offsite pages. Obviously, if you're a current gShift user, that's something that we have in the system. You can track their social engagement by influencers as well, and really start to see what kind of traction you're getting out of each one. Organic influencers are a little bit different. You still want to build a relationship. You still want to make sure that they're the right fit. But this is more of a you help us, we help you kind of feel. And I guess the paid influencers, you could say, kind of are too, because you're helping them by paying them. But with this, it's a little different. It's a little more, it's more organic, obviously, and it's about engaging with that influencer. So you want to help to nurture a mutually positive relationship. So there's a number of different ways to do this. Obviously, the example I gave earlier with you share their content, they share yours, that sort of thing, and build that relationship. Create Facebook lists, Twitter lists, there's a few others, Google Plus groups, things like that, so that you can pay closer attention to your influencers. So I have Twitter lists that I use on my own personal Twitter, as well as Twitter lists that we have set up here at gShift to help track the people that we know are the most engaged in our brand from an organic perspective, so that we can make sure that we are always staying up to date with what they're doing, because we don't want them to think that we've forgotten about them, and we don't want them to forget about us. Give influencers as much information and support as they require, but do not bombard them. So if you've got somebody who's engaged in your brand as an influencer, you know they're not a prospect, you know that they are specifically an influencer for your industry, you want to give them as much information as you can. You want to make sure that you're arming them with the knowledge that if they are sharing your content, or they're creating, if they're wonderful enough to create some content on their site about you, anything along those lines, you want to make sure you're giving them as much support as you can. Don't just randomly start sending them, emails or LinkedIn messages and that sort of thing, asking for engagement. You want it to be more organic, because the worst thing that you can do is turn that influencer off. And if you turn them off bad enough, then they could obviously say something publicly. I think most people in the B2B world wouldn't, but again, it's kind of a best practice. Track any content organic influencers create for you as well through offsite pages. So if you are working with someone and they say, I really love your service, I'm creating a list of the best services within your industry, I'd like to do a review for you. Fantastic. Make sure that you track that URL so you can see if their audience has brought any traffic to your site. So moving on to digital events. Digital events are organized gatherings of people who obviously are not in the same physical location, but they're connected through a common space online. These digital events are typically used to share knowledge, tips, ideas, that sort of thing with like-minded individuals. It can help build your brand's authority within the industry. It can help generate leads, and obviously it can increase your brand awareness as well. Digital campaigns can also be created around offline events. So we're looking at digital events and how they impact social amplification, but there's another piece to this that talks about digital campaigns and how they can be created around your company events, your trade shows, your local community events, so that you can extend the exposure of that offline event using social coverage into your online network. So just kind of, it might be something that you're doing within your community and you don't think that it's as relevant online. I've seen brands, talk about on Twitter that they are engaged in the local food shelter, for instance, and they'll get more social engagement around a post about that, about what they're doing in their community, than they will on anything else. So definitely make sure that you're leveraging that. And it's another great way to drive some engagement and help identify people who want to become affiliates of your brand. So types of digital events. So obviously, like we're having right now, there are webinars and webcasts. You can do podcasts, online conferences, and seminars. I broke those into two different because I think online conferences are quite a bit more vast. I'm actually, for what time I can find today, I'm signed up for one today for Content Marketing Institute. And basically, it's a matter of the seminars and the conferences are put together as a number of different online events and a string of webinars or webcasts that you can attend and take learning from. And then, of course, there are social parties. So if we're speaking specifically around social media, there are Twitter chats and parties. There are Facebook parties. There are Google Plus Hangouts. There's a number of other different venues within social that you can use. Basically, if people exist on social and you tell them to be there around a certain time, a conversation can happen. So even if it doesn't have an official name, like people don't really think of Facebook parties as actual parties. They don't seem as formatted as Twitter chats, but I've seen some very, very comprehensive ones that have taken place on brands' Facebook pages. I've seen them happen on Pinterest boards, a number of different social channels. So basically, it's just listing a time and a place to be on that social channel, assigning a hashtag if the social channel you're using has those, and then just having everybody participate in one big chat, one big conversation. So. Oh, and just an image there. So this is an example of social chat. It's a chat that I tend to try to attend every Monday night. It's just a bunch of different social media professionals that get together and we exchange tips and talk about different tools that we're using and industry trends and that sort of thing. So it's just a very, very engaging, usually very well attended. Attending those social events, even if you're not necessarily, if your brand's not organizing them, attending them is a great way to find influencers as well. I've actually been picked up by some major brands, for instance, Shutterfly, which is an online photography and home decor, by actually attending one of their Twitter parties, and they identified me as an influencer from that. So it's a great method for that as well. Digital events management. So The first thing that you need to do when you're looking at creating digital events is decide if your event will be for current clients, prospects, or your entire target market. So obviously we've run webinars where it's just gShift clients. We've run webinars where it's, demos, and we've done ones where we've opened it up to the whole public, like one that our CEO, Krista, had just run with Acquisio. That was open to the entire internet and was very well attended. So there's different markets depending on how you want the content to be relayed. Clearly outline the topic and the agenda that will be covered. Use email and social tools to invite attendees. Again, that's going to be specific to what who the audience is. For target market events, so for the public events, consider using influencers to drive attendance and engagement. So again, part of my job as an influencer has been I did something for Sick Kids Hospital where I was one of the influencers that drove my audience to a Twitter party and then to an actual live event down in Toronto and a number of different minor events that they had as part of the campaign. And that was part of my job as an influencer, was to drive up the attendance of those events. So what is promotions management? So this is the last piece that before we get into how it all comes together. Using promotional items and campaigns to increase the exposure of your brand and messaging. So I think we're all fairly familiar with promotions in general, but how does it tie back to social amplification? So for digital promotion campaigns, you're looking at things like promo codes, hashtags, digital giveaways. For offline promotional materials, you're looking at creative swag, so obviously the trade show giveaways, promotional collateral, physical giveaways. Less is more, so do not overuse hashtags. I think that's something that most brands have learned in the last few years. That is definitely a big turnoff. You also don't want to overdo giveaways and promo items. So when I talk about giveaways, physical or digital giveaways, again, as an influencer, I've run many giveaways for many brands, including Disney and a number of others. You don't want to do it too often. Disney actually had come to us at one point as an influencer, with a giveaway almost every month, but with us to have the option to have them go every other month and combine the prizes, which is what I did because I felt that it was less in the face of my audience to always be saying, oh, I've got another giveaway, and oh, I have another giveaway. So use the things sparingly and make sure that they're having the lifespan that they should have. So merging digital and offline promotions. Digital events can be used to promote your brand's upcoming offline event. Mention your booth number, giveaway details for a trade show your company will be exhibiting at. So we're at SMX next week, and we've been making sure that we're tweeting out about, the fact that our CEO, Krista, will be speaking and what booth we're at and the promo code that we're offering as a discount for SMX. So all of those sorts of things are aspects of your offline event that you can use digital promotion tools to push out. Create digital promo images and content to promote offline events. So again, this is a matter of putting together something that is specific to the event that you're going to be at that is shareable. So obviously we know social posts work better with images and that sort of content around it. We here as a standard practice and what I recommend to most clients is if you're going to be at a trade show or any kind of an event like that, throw up a blog post. It doesn't have to be huge. It's more of a company update than an actual piece of blog content. It can be a few hundred words and a picture and just, if there's a promo code or a giveaway or anything like that, put that in there as well. But use your digital space to promote that event. Likewise, offline collateral can be used to help extend the reach of your digital promotional efforts. So include any brand hashtags, social handles on all of your printed collateral and your promotional items. If you're going to be giving out a pen, include your brand hashtag, include your Twitter handle, anything like that you can fit on without it looking obviously messy. Create physical promotional materials to promote larger digital events, such as online conferences, regular webinars, etc. So this might be a postcard or a flyer or something, not a flyer, but a sell sheet, something along those lines that you would hand out at a larger event, at a trade show or something along those lines that actually talks about the things that you're doing digitally as well. So leveraging influencers for events and promotions. So this slide's going to basically pull everything that I've just talked about together into kind of one bigger picture. So you can maximize your social amplification efforts by utilizing organic and paid influencers for your digital online and offline events and promotional efforts. You want to establish a process for engaging influencers based on the strategy you've developed. So again, taking this right back to, looking at influencers, looking at events, looking at promotions. You want to create a very, very comprehensive, detailed outline of what you're going to do. So if this is around an event that you're going to, a trade show or something along those lines, or an event that if you're running an online conference or a webinar series or something along those lines, you need to first look at what is it that you're doing, what is the promotion around that going to be, and then from there, once you have kind of all your I's dotted and T's crossed, you want to inform your influencers of the promotional efforts of the campaign, and again, in as much detail as you can. So this is where the influencer toolkit comes into play. And you want to have the influencers use the promotional efforts to promote the digital online event. So in this webinar, we looked at social amplification first, then influencers, then digital events, and then promotions. But in the real life, it kind of works the other way around. So it's you're going to look at your events first. You're going to establish a promotional campaign around that, whether it's hashtags or promo codes or whatever goes along with the event that you're planning. From there, you identify influencers. And once you pull all of that together, you have social amplification. That is basically the presentation for today. I'm going to open this up to questions. So if you have a question, please type it down in the question section there in the control panel, and I will get to as many of them as I can. All right, doesn't look like we have any questions today. I know it was a lot of info and a little more fast paced. If anyone has any questions that kind of come to you later, by all means, please feel free to reach out. I will be sending out a follow-up email with the recording to this, as well as the slide deck, as well as anyone who is already a gShift user or looking to do things around social amplification. We actually have a promotion that we're going to be launching from this in terms of some social and influencer packages. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, again, especially if you're a gShift user. And if there's any questions further from that, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.